This week in comics, DC shows us that they cannot tell a good Dr. Fate story anymore. This is absolutely boring. Over at Marvel, Empire's turning into, well, just a garbage story. The tie-ins are actually better than the real storyline. And also, in Independence, what is up with Hillbilly, and why have I never read a single issue of Hillbilly until I got it for free? All that and more on this week's comic book haul and review. Now check it out. The intro. I have a new intro. Check out the new intro. Let me know what you think. Hey, what's going on, you wonderful weirdos? I'm Pokehan Joe, and this is my weekly haul and review where I pick up a bunch of comic books from Wednesday, read them, and then I take a bunch of notes on them, and then I try to sound intelligent on YouTube.
No, really.
So without further ado, let's roll into it. But first, I need to get a sip of what I like to call my evening coffee, or Daddy's evening coffee. Oh, yeah, it was that kind of week. But anyway, let's run this down. We're going to start off with DC. So DC's kind of weird this week. We get this first appearance of this Xanadoth character, and to be honest, it was pretty lackluster. We're being made to believe that the character went away, but then again, you can't destroy chaos. If you don't know, Xanadoth in this is like an ancient king of chaos. So obviously they have a problem with Dr. Fate.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a bloodbath about to take place.
And of course, they see Superman. If you've been reading this story, you know why them two are talking, because they were having a counseling session. Yeah. And mind you, the new Dr. Fate is like a kid. Regardless, anybody can be a mental health expert, apparently, in the DC lore. Regardless, we kind of go through this entire thing, and it was really lackluster. Like, we got a bunch of history about the character, and then they were able to destroy it because of Hocus Pocus, Magic Ocus, and it went away. Like, seriously, there was nothing really to bite onto in this. So if this new character goes anywhere, it will probably be in the dollar bin, to be quite frank and honest. Moving on. Detective Comics kind of let me down this week. I'm on board with this whole Joker war thing, and in this, Batman needs to get to Wayne Enterprises. Bruce Wayne has lost everything, and the Joker pretty much owns all of his assets, money, everything, and he's using Wayne Enterprises to pump out drones, like flying drones, tank drones, the whole 9 yards. And he needs to get there and shut that glorified 3D printer down. So what does he need? He needs, you guessed it, Batwoman.
Which is leaving residents in a constant state of fear. There were calls last night for further investment in the city.
Batwoman. That's it. That's who shows up. And it's the same Batwoman we saw in the CW show. It's basically just, it's just, I don't know. It's just like, I'm a woman and you need to sit in the back seat, which actually happened in this book, by the way. Just put that out there. Mind you, Batwoman wouldn't have been anything without Batman's tech. But we don't need to get into that. We're going to try to make sense of this comic book, right? Good luck. Comment down below if you read this and you were like, well, actually, it was a good book, because fill in the blank. Help me out with this one, because I was just like, I really don't care. Maybe I just have such a disdain for Batwoman. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm being a little biased by it. Whatever the case may be. I just didn't find this to be a very engaging story in any way, other than, Batman, you are the man, and you need to just be quiet and listen. That's what I pretty much got through this whole thing. I might be slightly jaded. I don't know. What do you think? All right, moving on. Dark metal. So, yeah, we're breaking out the notes on this one. I promise I'll say good things about comic books. Then we'll start with this one, right? So, this is pretty cool. So, Team Wonder Woman and Batman have got to go save all the JLAs, Justice League of America, or Justice League America, or whatever they're calling themselves these days. I don't know, it's two different comic books based off both of them. Regardless, this is just like Dead Planet, where you get to see these kind of unique characters just kind of play a part, but don't have to actually engage in the story very heavily, which is kind of refreshing, because we get Mr. Miracle in here and his machine, the Miracle Machine, and we also find out that Superman is kind of driving the force behind this thing. this is a very vast story, and it's kind of hard to get your head wrapped around it because then all of a sudden the Flashes, with an S or with an ES, have to take off running again. But the Darkest Knight, also known as the Batman Who Laughs, is slowly following them. Why are they doing this? Because they're trying to recreate the multiverse. That tends to get a little heavy-handed in that explanation, but it's still there and it's still interesting. So I'm on board with this. It's kind of weird. Normally not something that I read, but I'm reading it just for its whimsicalness in it. And I love all the characters in it. I'm a DC villain fan. You got DC villains, you got the weird DC heroes that you don't see a whole lot. You got a little bit of everything going on in here. And I think that's why I like it. And I've been collecting these kind of guitar, or I'm sorry, the death metal band covers, the 1 in 25s. Because I absolutely think it's great to see superheroes in a band, especially a metal band. Long way from Justice League. Moving on to Marvel. My chair is extra squeaky today. So, couldn't wait to get my hands on this one. I wanted to know what all the hype was. And all the hype for Venom 27 was Annie's back. If you don't know who Annie is, you're probably not the only person. Basically, Annie's the mother of Dylan and former squeeze of Eddie Brock. That happened. They're in this alternate universe where everything's Venom. Like, as if everything's not Venom now. But we do get a cool snapshot of the Avengers Venomized in here. Kind of like, but not in the way that they did it before. I know that sounded weird. It shouldn't sound that way, but in this one, they're kind of, well, they're very loyal to a character called Codex. Who's Codex? He's basically Null in this. Well, he is. He's Null in this universe. Go figure.
Well, that's perfect. That's just exactly what I need.
And we find out that Annie kind of holds a resistance of humans down in the sewers of this place. We get some quick stuff of Virus in here, and we find out that Null has no idea who this guy is, which I think was kind of a funny stab at the whole comic book thing. Like, who could it be? And it was like, I don't know this guy. It's kind of fun. So all in all, this is fun. It's a fun read. It's just great stuff. Pick it up if you haven't already. You're missing out on great storytelling. And I know everybody's specking on this, and this is like crazy prices right now on eBay. Don't buy it for that because I don't see the storyline lasting that long. But I will say it is a fun read. Moving on. All right, so Revenge of the Cosmic Ghostwriter. I've waited forever for the final issue of this, and finally I got it, and guess what? It ended where it started. Yes, this book came full circle. We opened up the series with somebody picking up Ghostwriter, Cosmic Ghostwriter Skull, and then, you know, him having to play vengeance on everything. And then it turns around that that's how it ended. Basically, he becomes human again, but he has to save a young lady's soul. So he has to take the cosmic powers back of Cosmic Ghostwriter. So he takes those back, and guess what? He goes dormant again. And again, somebody's got to pick up the skull and reactivate him, if you will.
I think I'll have that drink now.
That's a spare.
Normally I find that as a cheap out in writing, but for some reason, this seems to be an exception to the rule. It almost seemed entertaining to kind of see that happen, to know that the character is not really ever going to go anywhere. It will always kind of be there, kind of lurking or waiting, like a genie in a lamp. A very, very evil genie in a lamp. All right. All right, so Empire. So I'll go ahead and say this about Empire. Empire, Fantastic Four, you're going to want to read Empire Avengers first, so this makes sense. I didn't do that, obviously, because it's not the order I picked it up in. And this is the 1 per store variant, but really, who cares? I'm finally on board with the majority of you that don't like this story. I read through this, and I was just like, so what? Like, who cares? Hulkling is not Hulkling, we find out, because his husband figured it out. Not through magic, but through feelings. Feelings, I guess? Okay, fine, so be it. And then he just randomly finds Hulkling prisoned, like the man in the mask, shoved in the bottom of the ship. So he shows up. So now we got Team Not Hulkling and Team Hulkling. They're battling it out, and it's just cringeworthy. It's just, oh. It's just not entertaining at all. Oh, and Wiccan's his name. Yeah, Hulkling's husband is named Wiccan. Um, the Coyote, well, they want to do what is known as a death blossom. Now, we used to joke about death blossom in the military. It's basically when you just shoot up an area and you create a mushroom cloud. Oh, that death blossom. Apparently, they're trying to do that here on Earth, and they want to do it in Wakanda. Why? Because Wakanda has vibranium in it, and vibranium apparently enriches the soil. Apparently, we're just going to take vibranium. We're just going to make it the all or nothing of everything in Marvel lore now, I guess. I don't know. Metals don't enrich the Earth, but whatever. Let's roll with it. And, of course, Black Panther makes his stand there as he fights all these people. We see military leadership in a very, very bad light here because it's not overall convincing in any way. The story's tearing apart on itself, and it's just becoming more idealistic than it is just trying to entertain people. And I think that's the problem here. Let's see. Empire. Avengers. So Black Panther decides to make his stand at Wakanda, which would have made sense if you would have flipped these around. But anyway, he decides to make his stand there. He knows what's going on with Captain America down near Mexico. We'll talk about that one in a minute. He knows what's going on in space, and he's like, no sense in dividing forces right now. The target is Wakanda, because that's where they need to get this metal that will enrich them, and yada, 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 whatever else. Whatever. Not a very interesting story. However, there is an interesting story in here, and that's the whole one with Kazar. And Kazar dealing with his wife, who is being brainwashed. She's part plant. We also see Man-Thing in here and Brother Voodoo. I always like those characters. They're maybe not the most highlighted characters in comic book lore. Nevertheless, they're still entertaining.
Oh, that's perfect.
And that story is pretty entertaining, actually. Oh, let's change the page. Okay, Immortal Hulk. I was kind of dying off with this, but something has piqued my interest in this all of a sudden. I thought this story was pretty much at its wit's end with the whole leader thing. I was getting kind of bored with it. But after the Gamma explosion that happened in the last issue, Gamma Flight randomly shows up. Now, I'm not a fan of Gamma Flight. As far as I'm concerned, it's nothing more than Alpha Flight minus several of the members and moved into space. That's literally what they are. Handling Gamma problems. I'm not really sure what their purpose is. They just kind of randomly show up here to battle out with the Hulk because he's the purpose of it all. Yeah, just drink it in. None of this is what has actually caught my attention. What actually caught my attention in this is the guy in the tube, who we thought for a while was some sort of form of Rick Ross, and then that wasn't the case. So who is the guy in the tube with
Why all the questions?
all the powers? Well, he finally wakes up. And I think we're going to be in for a surprise. I don't want to speculate too hard on it. It's probably not that big of a deal. But I am intrigued by that. So kudos to you writers for at least capturing my interest about one of the smallest subjects in your comic book. All right. Oh, we're going to get kind of weird on these next two. All right, so Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, what can be said about this one? Amazing Spider-Man. This is actually kind of interesting because we're dealing with something in here with Sin Eater. So Sin Eater shows up to a place where the Lethal Legion shows up, which is just a bunch of bad guys. Don't get hung up on who they are, but they have no problems with dropping innocent bodies. That's important. Sin Eater shows up, so does Spider-Man, and Sin Eater just starts blasting away with his, I'm not sure what to call it, so right now we'll just call it a shotgun, just to make things simple. Come to find out, all the people really like this kind of eye for an eye and escalated justice, and the word justice keeps being used. But is it justice at the end of the day? Come to find out, this Lethal Legion didn't really die from any of this stuff, even though it was reported everywhere that they were. Actually, what happened to them, it just took their sins away. It ate their sins. See where the title comes from? And now they're like good, decent people that honestly regret their actions. And they're actually at Ravenclaw, and they're like model prisoners now, which is weird. I'm not sure how I feel about this. What I did find interesting is how a group of people thought that it was okay to for a what was perceived to be a guy doing the right thing, blasting away at everybody, and everybody's like, yeah, it's about time, it's about time. Yeah, that's fair. Again, this is called perceived justice. It's not real justice. It doesn't hold any real truth, but it is a good example about how mass crowds can fall for this kind of stuff.
I'm going to enjoy this.
Does it hit home yet? Guess that would depend on where you live. Yes, I am talking about the riots that are currently going on. Whether you're a person that supports the riots or somebody that thinks you should run down people that block a road. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, your justification is equal justice. But is it? It's easy to say, yeah, but really at the end of the day, what is the ultimate cost of justice? Should it affect everybody? Should it just affect the people that it should be affecting? What does it really look like? Again, it's the same concept. Something very bad and extreme is happening, but we're going to call it justice because it seems right. Interesting. Probably going to get a couple of thumbs down on that one. It's okay. We'll survive. Next. Another one we're going to get kind of weird with. Captain America. First off, this is the best Captain America story going. I don't know what Coates is doing anymore. I dropped that a long time ago. This is a legit good story. It has action in it. Check. It has a moral story in it. Check. And it actually makes sense. What we see in here is we see Captain America trying to go to Mexico City because a global threat is landing there. Literally to the point to where it can shift tectonic plates because it's literally a living mountain that is going to be attacking and killing lives there. The Kree and the Skrull are like, okay, yeah, just drop a bomb on it. Like, the most simplistic answer, right? Captain America's like, no, you're going to kill everybody, which they kind of already killed a bunch of people in the city just to get rid of the problem, this kind of mass effect of not worrying about casualties, just taking care of the problem seems to be an issue. Well, so Captain America finds out that the general's going to go make an argument at NATO, but then realizes that he's actually one of the enemy that's going there. And something very interesting happens at this NATO meeting. You get to see how, well, you get to see an oversimplification of politics. This kind of quid pro quo. If we send troops to help you, you need to lift these levees. You need something, therefore you need to give me something. And mind you, they're on a verge of a global threat, a global invasion where everybody's going to die, and they're nitpicking over some economic stuff and nitpicking over this. Now, first off, if you think that this stuff doesn't happen, well, you know that boring channel that everybody just kind of passes over called C-SPAN? I highly suggest watching it a few times. You'll actually see it in our government. You also see it in your local government, and you will also see it at the United Nations or any committees that meet. You'll also see it in American Legion politics, Masonic Lodge politics, VFW. It is politics at the end of the day. But given the threat that's given there, should we be acting in a political manner is ultimately the question in here. And of course the answer is no.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know. Discuss it down in the comments and let me know what you think. All right, so moving on. So why did I not know about Hillbilly? Hillbilly, maybe this is their only good issue. I couldn't tell you. I know I've seen it vaguely referenced every now and then in comic book shows and stuff, but this particular issue is really good. This issue teaches us a very, very important moral and ethical lesson to some degree. You should always challenge existing assumptions, or at least they need to be questioned every now and then. In here we have a village that literally picks a child at random to picking a stone, ties it to a tree far away so some dragon, or what they call a worm, can eat it, because they think that if they feed the thing won't attack them. They were told this. It's been throughout 20 years worth of this going on, and some little girl's like, no, this isn't cool. She was my friend. Like, seriously. So she goes and finds help. Then she finds a gentleman. And gentleman's like, all right, let's go see what's going on. First off, he carries like a hog splitter with him, which is great. He goes up there and actually has a conversation with the dragon. Dragon's like, I don't know why they keep bringing these kids up here, but I am a dragon at the end of the day. If you give me food, I will eat it. However, here's the little girl, because I had a horse earlier, I don't need to eat her. You can have her back. I don't know why they're doing this. Come to find out, there's an evil talking possum who's been kind of whispering around to everybody that if you don't take care of the dragon, you know, it's going to come down here and eat everything, and it panicked everybody. This was really interesting because with inside of a community, an outside influence kind of spread these rumors and lies, and nobody challenged the assumption because they were able to hide behind, well, we've been doing it for 20 years, like literally said in the comic book. I have always said whenever I'm in a meeting with somebody, if they're like, well, we've done it this way forever, I'm like, you know, just because you do something for 20 years doesn't mean that it's automatically right on the 21st if it was wrong the 20 years. You kind of need to focus on that. So this was really good about challenging assumptions and just not randomly believing things, but actually going out there and talking to the influence. Also, it's a good example of not having a middleman with alternative motives involved, meaning the possum in this case, the dragon, and the villagers. Why would you need the middleman there? Why not just go figure it out yourself? They never asked.
Why were you sobbing like a child this morning? Why do you drink so much, huh? Why all the questions?
So that was really cool. The only other thing that I really picked up this week was the one per store Negan variant. I think this is the second or third printing of it. I don't know. It was there, decent price, and I like shiny. I was like a fish. So that was pretty cool. All right, guys, that's my haul. That's my review. Comment down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you find something in a comic book you read this week that maybe I missed? I'm happy to hear about it. And don't forget about Blaster Stash at 10 p.m. Friday night, where myself, Huey, and Spectacular Spider Grandpa, we're going to talk about these comic books and give you our opinions about them and look at the live chat and see what your opinions are about them. Come join us in our live chat where we can all talk about comic books and the things we love and hate about them. Other than that, I don't have anything else, guys, so stay safe and stay away from each other. Talk to you later. Bye.
Well, that's one more for the trophy cabinet. Thank you very much.